Haha, reading chat and someone says, what does poison do? Other viewer poisons you. I'm dead. Yo, that would be my wise ass chat who would be doing that. Intellectuals only here. Yeah, only multiple dissertation, PhD, publication people in this chat. Will hit on the bind. What? I need a minute. Why can't people spell it? It's spelled B-O-U-N-D. Okay, that is the best spelling of the word abound. Badge reboot for his badge and regular servers. Okay, I'll go for the badge video. I'll just specifically go to that video and just read it in there. Yeah, I think that's what I talk about in the video as well. Like near the end, that it seems that it's more final damage for non-reboot because you have like a way more flat stat in non-reboot, right? Because of prime scrolling and all that shit. A legacy item that increases that much damage shouldn't ever exist. I just disagree. They may have said that, but I don't take that as their word, because they also said that they changed how the set bonuses work for Golux because of balance, and people ended up actually being stronger because of it, because the drop table for Golux also changed. So even though they said balance, and you can attack them on their messaging and their reasoning being bad, which I will 100% agree with, the balance is not the actual reason. The only balance that there could be is the balance between how much time they have to spend to update the game to make it so that it fits with the updates from KMS. Like it's like their financial balance sheet maybe. It's not the game balance. Would it still be acceptable knowing people have access to 100 plus boss damage and new players will never? That's a way bigger one. I would have way more problems with that. It would have to depend on how much. Nah, I don't think. Nah, like 100 plus, like 100 boss damage or something. Nah, that'd be way too much. There has to be definitely a limit. You should still be given like some kind of baseline familiars, but that would be across the line for sure. That would give away, because then I can definitely feel it. Like but then it's not that I inherently don't know the thought behind it or something, right? It's not that that I'm like some kind of robot or something. The argument that KMS doesn't have familiars, therefore you're still stronger than the intended game power still stands. It probably still does, yeah. Which in your sense would mean that you're okay with the change being made. I think here the reason, the main reason of like people being unhappy with it, I'll be able to agree with people way more that it makes the difference bigger. And then I think my argument of like you're still stronger than the game's content and you should still be fine, I think loses some of its power, because even though for me it wouldn't really change it, but I know for other people it would, because people just measure their progress and how strong they are so much with other people, and people always look at how strong they are comparative to other people rather than comparative to the game way more. And if everyone gets depressed because they're feeling like they could just like never get close, like, and there's like this big of a gap, then that argument would be way stronger, I think. I think this missing legacy power just because it's negligible is a good enough justification. I think it is, because right now I think it's brain rot holding people back, and like on the sides you can definitely like have this as a general idea and want that and push for that. But again, I already told you like specifically, like I think this is like definitely one of the more reasonable arguments to have. This is like less than 1% of the people who actually mentioned potable badges have this argument. The other 99 have like, I want to be stronger. And the main reason to get stronger is to not be weak in your head and to like play the game and chase the damage. That's the main reason to get stronger. Because the people who aren't letting themselves get held back because they don't have badges, those are the people who are passing by you and getting stronger than you. But again, this is definitely like a way more reasonable thing than I can get behind for sure. But I think there's a limit for that. Dialogue on that thread ends up we draw the what's acceptable line in different places. Yeah, that's probably, I think that's a good, that's probably true. I mean, that's what I said with you, right? It's like agree to disagree kind of on where, I don't think it's inherently wrong for like a legacy item that gives damage to exist, but we probably disagree on how much that can be. And that's probably what what the most reasonable conversation and agreement disagreement can be. But then the fact that I got like so many downvotes when that's just all it ends up being is because people can't deal with that reality, because they can see it as just a disagreement, but it's like, well, you have a bigger voice than I do, so if you're on the other side, then we have to like hammer you down, because otherwise I'm never going to get my stronger stuff. If there was another situation, like say that they removed the ID from like the normal and the common familiars or something, and like the item that gives like the 30% ID again, like the old set bonus and shit, then I don't think it would be as crazy, because like most people would have to get to like 250 or something before they even get anything that's better, and most people won't get to 250, but still like it would discourage too many people, and with how easy it is to get to 250, it would still be too much. And the main reason I will say is not because I'm very inherently against all of this. The main reason would be that we would have like the level of complaining about the badges times 10. And when you already think you're the one who thinks that I complain too much, like during the videos and during all of that stuff, which I do, but then that's how I feel, like an order of magnitude towards the community about the amount of complaining that they are doing. So I would be like, it would be by an order of magnitude bigger. You're comparing apples to oranges and saying it's okay because they're both fruits. If you say you like apples because they're fruit, and I ask you if you also like oranges, since the argument because they're fruit applies to oranges too, and I see how that's logically inconsistent. I feel it's... I love the hard when I wrote the apples and oranges. Yeah, I see we were having some fun in here. Locks and missing items behind events is completely out of the game, but it's not really going to stop me from getting to the content I want. I also think removing it from players who already have it is horrible. They shouldn't be punished for it. I think that is the healthy response. This guy just look at Camus, which doesn't have any of this objective. I don't know. I feel like this guy is trying to take my side, but I don't agree with anything this guy says. I think he's trying to agree with me, but I don't agree with anything in here. I disagree with all of this. This week, I'm not suggesting adding something new like a secondary emblem. It's more like Nexon removing something. Yeah, exactly. You didn't watch the whole video. He's basically saying quit whining about something when you don't need it. I think you can still try to move towards what you think is fair. Okay, this comment section is not nearly as bad, actually. But, like, the comment section on the first day was horrible. That's why I wrote that comment in there. Can you post this to YouTube so I can reply to your video if you're replying to replies for your YouTube videos? Maybe. Mustard, do you feel like doing that? I have a conversation with people like W. I'm just going to vote and not leave a comment. Wait. Oh, shit. Where's the long post about the fall of capitalism, revive communism, MapleStory? In due time, okay, Karma. You guys shit posting in my YouTube section. Is that they are stuck with one badge for so long and can't do anything about it. Take me. There's a returning player. Oh, please use spaces. Okay, a paragraph should never be this long. As a general advice to anyone who's writing texts or anything like that ever. Okay, use spaces. Use returns. I don't want potable badges. I want 10 very different badges. Do very different things. Make skill badges. I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah. But who's to say that this won't happen in the future, right? I think getting other equips that are like comparable or better in some situations but then worse in others is probably a good idea. Compensation for badge, give you a Magnus badge in return. How many videos of people getting that compensation badge and throwing that one away? The fact that you have missed out on something is always going to be demoralizing to new adopters. Never play any old MMO for the first time. I guess so. Just let it die. Just like it's demoralizing that I didn't buy Apple stock in 2008. Yeah, it's like you can still buy Apple stock now, but you can never get those gains anymore, like percentage-wise. No, wait, this actually kind of agrees with his example. Like, you could make it rich with another one, right? And this is exactly true. Like, you could play right now and get a heart on your familiar, on your character with mechanical hearts, and maybe they never bring mechanical hearts or any other potential hearts back in Reboot. That's possible. And now you have that step up against someone else because you got in early. That's very possible. And I wonder if those people will say like, well, we told you to drop your badge because there's no potential badges anymore, so I will drop my heart now because it has potential on it. Do you think they would do that, Masta? Do you think those people with those arguments, do you think they will be like, I'm going to lead by example and I'm going to drop my mechanical heart because there's no hearts with potential anymore. I'm going to lead by example and do that, what I told you to do. People went balancing so bad, go play rock, paper, scissors. That's the most balanced game in the world. 1/3 chance of winning every round. Is it really though? Is it really? Aren't there rock, paper, scissors like world championships where some people win? This is also a lot of people, yeah. They're like, oh, I can never switch mains now because my new character won't have a badge. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's just like, you're fucking yourself mentally so hard. Have to do a huge compensation for those who have it. Similar to compensation of the flames. Well, this is why it's just the whole thing is just a giant shit show. Okay, 1. When you compete with other players in who is the best or who has the biggest damage, like the item state to new players that they can never become number 1. False. Disagree. False. You can overcome. If all else is equal, then you can never become 1. True, so you have to make sure that not all else is equal. And since 95% of this game is RNG upgrading, that does not mean that there's no chance to beat. It means you can have a harder time, but it doesn't mean that you can't beat him. So I disagree with that point. 2. The fact that those items exist but are no longer obtainable is a problem. I disagree as well. They got it, I don't, I want to, I can't. Some don't care about being number 1, but just don't like having restrictions compared to others. These are 2 different points. So you can think that it's wrong that someone else has something that you can get, just want something because other people have it. Like these are 2 separate points. I think both of these are not really valid. But again, like this requires more explanation. Why do you think it's a problem that you can't have something that other people have? Why do you think this is a big enough of a problem? As people who started playing 15 years ago will probably be better than those who started 2 years ago, regardless if they have potable badges or not. Disagree. Some people play for, like, on the aggregate, probably, on average. But not everyone will be. Some people play for a very long time. They only play during the anniversary events. They come back every now and then. They don't really play hardcore. I've been playing this gear for very, very, very long. I'm pretty sure that my arc is probably going to get surpassed by JHK soon, who's only been playing for 10 or 11 months. Those who have the badge are not rewarded anything for obtaining Genesis badge from current hardest boss in the game, as any potable badge is far superior. Probably true. Again, is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's just a statement. Yeah, that's probably true, yeah. Reason for removal of potable badges has been balance changes and upcoming content. Yeah, but we've seen the balance changes comment before as given the reason and it being total bullshit, so I take that with a huge grain of salt. Balance could be done without removing them, and upcoming content is not making sense, or it is still upcoming. I think they were mentioning with that, I think they meant the Black Mage badge at that point, I think is what they meant. You suspect that Ghost Ship was removed because of Spaghetti more so than balance? Yeah, I assume as well. Removing potential badges from people that already have it is unfair for all they have spent money making them. I would agree. Just making all badges potable and rebalancing newest classes to take that into account so that Genesis badge would be best item for that slot for everyone will make everyone happy. I don't see why that is bad. This is probably a fine solution, and that probably wouldn't be bad either. Good luck getting Nexon to do this though. To just include that in the balancing and make that appropriate. That's one of those very much easier said than done things. But yeah, I would fully support this for sure. There's also option to make badges better than any potential badges got, but it would be too difficult to do for multiple classes, so you could kind of craft it almost like accessory. Yeah, now you're just giving other options, right? Before you give other options, first you have to establish why it's bad, why you think it's bad, and where the line is, which you haven't done in this comment, right? So even though I don't necessarily disagree with like any of these ideas, I don't know where these ideas are coming from. They're coming from I think it's bad, but I don't know where the I think it's bad is coming from, right? It's missing some kind of fundamental layer of justification. Just saying it's bad because I don't like it. Why don't you like it? Why do you think it's bad? Why do you think it inevitably... Right. Where does that come from? It's missing one layer there. See about badges as a mistake or a bug, and I don't want another item to cube but I want game to be fair for all the players, new and old, and whatever solution will occur, I want it to equal gameplay and experience so that we all play the game. But you can never have this, right? Because people who start playing the game later have a huge amounts of benefits. People who play during a specific event can have a huge benefit versus people who play 3 days later. Everyone who starts playing this game or comes back at certain events is going to have a very different experience in the game. People who got potential badges play this game at a stage where the game's way harder to play and way harder to progress in, right? And at that point, maybe they needed the badge to deal enough damage to actually get through this Scourge. Versus people who start now, they don't need that damage at all because their characters are way stronger. You get to 200 way faster. You get to 200, you get 4 5th job skills. Most of the people who got badges, those people got to 200, 5th job didn't even exist yet. Legion didn't exist yet, right? So you're saying you want everyone to have the same experience, but you're only looking at that from, and everyone should have the thing that other people have. You're not looking at this from, you're looking at this from one side. You're looking at this from people who got there and it was way harder. That part doesn't matter. What matters is the one thing that like the remnant of that, the relic of how hard it was. Versus for me, first it's much easier. That doesn't matter because there's one thing that we're missing that other people have, and it's very selectively looking at what your situation was and what the other person's situation was, and the outcome is we need even more, right? And that can look, if you don't come with like a solid level, like if you think no one should ever have an equip that no one else can have, if that is something that you really feel and that's your stance, then this all follows logically from that. But I haven't seen any kind of standpoint like that that determines that all logically follows. So there's like a step missing there. Do you disagree that having unattainable items that are best in slot is not ideal? Do I disagree that it is not ideal? I would agree that it is not ideal, I guess, yeah. But there's a wide chasm between ideal and unfair. There's a whole bunch of neutral ground in between there. Wait, MapleStory balances characters with each other. Does that not mean that we shouldn't balance players with other players? I think you're saying this from the angle of people who like to compete with each other. I definitely am. I could put the same number of hours into the game as an older player and still be behind just because they have a badge. Yes, you could also put the same amount of hours into a game as an older player and be ahead, even though they have a badge because of RNG. That's also possible. And you could put even more time in than they can and surpass them. And yes, people do play the game to compete with friends. The privilege of a badge isn't just to players who put in a ton of hours into the game, it's to those who happen to have completed the badge quest a few years ago. It still comes down to that I just don't think that the line is there, where this is such an unover... If you want to compete with people, but the fact that someone else has a potential badge and you don't have it, that makes you feel like it's like impossible to compete and it's completely unfair and you have no chance. I feel like I have enough of an overview of the game and the balance and all of the sources of damage that exist in this game, and I tell you that that's surmountable. You can overcome that difference if you want. If you want to compete, you can overcome that difference. You could do all the same content that they can, and you can compete with them hardcore, and you can surpass them. That's possible. It's not impossible. If you look at that and you think like, oh, it's already impossible, and you're not even gonna try to rise up to the challenge to surpassing people, I don't think you want to compete. Like, I've played a lot of sports in my life. If you see the other team and you see a team that's just taller than you, you're not gonna get any rebounds. You see a team that's faster than you, they got some crazy starting players, and you're like, I mean, they're gonna beat us. Like, this isn't fair. We're not even gonna play. If anyone on my team was like that, I wouldn't want to play either. I don't want to play with someone on my team like that. And if you've done everything like the absolute best that you can, and you still lost because of those things that you saw from the get-go, you could be like, well, I guess I assumed right. But if you're trying to compete, this is not enough. I mean, I'm telling you, as someone who knows enough about this game, like, this is not enough to discourage you. It shouldn't be enough to discourage you. If this is enough to discourage you, then either you think you already know more about the game than you actually do, or you're not really trying to compete. You're just trying to look for like an easy W over someone. I don't think anyone's arguing that a potable badge is needed for all the content. Some people do. But yeah, for those people, it's more of a mental block. But yeah, I shouldn't try to say that everyone is saying that they can't do anything because they don't have a potential badge. And that's, whenever I say that, it's just like hyperbole. If I say like, oh, people are like, oh, I can't do anything because I don't have a badge, I'm saying that more as like people, what I read into people's complaints about the potential badges is that it sounds like it's a mental block that they can't get over. Just because they have a badge, they just like shut down. And every single thing they do is like, okay, I did it in this time, but that was without a potential badge. And it's like, okay. And then I got Legion rank. My BA is this much, but that's without a potential badge. And it feels like they almost need it as like a get out of jail free card, like as an escape to be like, well, my damage might be shit, but that's because I don't have a potential badge. And it's like an eternal excuse almost of like why I don't reach anything. And I feel like if you're really someone who competes, you don't look for excuses, you look for solutions, and you look for ways to overcome rather than ways to justify why you're not there yet. Or play another game where you already know 100% chance that you have a real shot at winning if you just throw enough time at the game. But I think in any game where you're coming in when other people have already played for 15 years and you have played for 2 years, you've got to have pretty big balls to say like, oh, I can definitely surpass these people easy. But oh, there's one item they have that I don't have. Well, never mind, it's impossible now. Now I can never do it. But if I had that one item, I can definitely surpass their 15,000 hours of playing. Lastly, I don't think that anyone here is being entitled, though. Asking for content and balance between players is something that's completely normal. Yes. Calling people entitled is a complete cop-out of the entire argument. The reason I mention entitlement is because what I see a lot is that whenever somebody sees an item just that exists, immediately people tend to internalize like, oh, this is something that I can achieve, this is my goal, I'm looking at my progression from the point of view where I have this. It's like whenever, you know, like a test server. Now, how many people didn't say like, oh my god, I'm going to be so strong, I'm going to be able to solo this? As soon as I saw the KMS Tespia patch notes come out, that damage was going to get changed to final damage. It was like, oh my god, damage is going to be final damage. That's going to go into KMS. That's going to come to our server. We're going to be so much stronger. And people already start planning. And then as soon as that gets rolled back, it's like, oh my god, we're getting nerfed. It wasn't as extreme this time because people saw pretty clearly that it was too high and that it probably wasn't going to go through that way. But when I say like entitlement, it's like internalizing the situation into your own situation. And when it's something that you're that you think that you already have, and you feel that you have it, there's like entitlement that comes there. I know that, and the word entitlement kind of has the connotation of like a screaming child that's like super spoiled, you know, by like rich parents or something. You know, that's like the negative way of seeing entitlement. Entitlement is just like, I am owed this, or I did enough to have earned this, right? Like that's entitlement, just that, nothing really more when I use the word here. And what I see is like people have started to play the game later than everyone else. So again, complete disregard for the personal situations and the game situations that people have to play through. Yeah, I mean, I can like cry about all the city situations we had, but if you're a newer player and you don't know what the term loot lag means, just for me and other people like me, for having played through like 2 years of loot lag, we should get a permanent potential badge that no one else gets, just for still playing the game through that shit. If you don't know what loot lag was, that's fine, but then don't come into a game that you haven't played for very long and say like, hey, you guys, you have that thing, I should have it too, when you have no idea what we've had to go through to still be playing the game. If we all stopped playing the game because of how broken the game was back then, you wouldn't have a game to play right now because the game would have shut down. And what I have a problem with is the selective looking at, you have that one thing, I don't have it, therefore we should have it too, or there should be something like it should get removed, or you know, maybe that's too extreme of an example, but it's the removing. It's like, you have it, so we should have it too, otherwise we can never compete. But it's the complete disregard for all of the negative things that we had to overcome to even get to the situation where we had it. Not only that we needed it, but all of the negative stuff that we had as well. And it's the complete disregard, and not even the disregard, but not even thinking that there might be something you're disregarding in that situation, that just grinds my gears as a player who's played through all of these years. That someone, like, I can't imagine going into another MMO that I haven't played. The game is 16 years old or 18 years old in some other regions, and there are people in the game that have an item that is stronger than an item that I can ever get, and I come with the argument that I should have it too because I'm a new player and I can't get it anymore, so I should be able to have it too. I just can't imagine ever having that thought myself. Just blows my mind that people would even think that that's like a normal thing to come into a new MMO with. You literally cannot put in the same number of hours into the game as an older player. Yeah, you could, but that would be, man, to be able to catch up to someone who played like 15 years more than you, that might take you like 30 years of playing twice as much, right? Like, it's pretty crazy. I feel like people say there's a very naive and Tyler, remember the days when we were kids and mom gives your brother 2 pieces of candy and only give you 1 and you cry for days because it's unfair. Please get over it, thanks. I mean, this is kind of like the most negative interpretation of my argument, I guess, which I hope that people don't interpret my argument as just this. I might kind of playfully refer to it as this for like hyperbole's sake and stuff, but this is, of course, my argument is of course way more nuanced than this, and it's not just that. So like, I agree with this part, of course, but most people's arguments are like other people within the server are stronger. The fact that people in another server are stronger, or even the fact that it's not needed for the balance of the game, I think those are part of the argument, and I think those should be things that help you get over this and not feel as bad about this. But you can still feel that it's unfair that other people in the same server have things that you don't have, and also agree at the same time that that doesn't mean that you therefore cannot do content within the game. You can have both of those arguments at the same time. MapleStory is a long-term game for sure. People tend to be more nitpicky, and actually this is a stronger argument for my case, because MapleStory is a long-term game. It's perfectly possible that people with potential badges stop playing by the time you catch up to them. It's perfectly possible that people with potential badges end up not being able to participate in an item that in an event that comes out with another legacy item that you get and that they don't get. And then when you have one, maybe it gives even more than potential badges and they don't play anymore. Either they don't play anymore or they don't get the legacy item that you got, and now you can surpass them. Is it now unfair for them that you have that item and now you should have their item and they should have yours, right? There are options. If you care enough about competing, then I feel like you should be seeing options instead of only obstacles. It's like, if you're okay with getting rid of something but you want the same or better in return, then you're just not okay with getting rid of that. That's what that means. I don't get this. There are people who unironically think that we should get like another top and bottom to upgrade, and it's like, do you really have 120 flame score, 22 star, 3-line legendary top and bottom already? And have you had that for like years? Because if you had 22 star top and bottom 3-line stat with like 120 plus flame score, you had that for like the last 3 years, then I can kind of see where you're, and everything else you have is also upgraded, then I can kind of see where you're coming from. But you probably don't have that. Why would you want to feel pressure to need to upgrade on an item when you can feel solace in the fact that you have it upgraded as far as is possible? Why would you want to feel shitty about what you have when you can feel happy about what you have? And the game did not get easier. You can't just state that objectively. You can. In general, it got easier. In some aspects, it didn't, but in way more aspects than it didn't, it did. Objectively, the game got way easier. That is true. You can't really... progression got easier. Now, the reason why you might not say that the game got easier is because you have also moved your standards up because of the ease. And therefore, comparatively, it didn't get easier. But in like as close to objective terms you can get, it did get easier. But because it gets easier, you take the same level of ease as being the baseline of what you can achieve with that, then of course it didn't get easier, right? If you move that along. I was killing the BM now easier than it was to kill CHT at the time. Again, because you're moving the goalpost like way down the line, and then you're comparing that to what it is now, right? Didn't watch, dislike though. 9 upvotes. I'll just upvote that too. There, I'll give it a heart, sense of self. People who do that rubs me off in an annoyed way. If someone rubs you off, that's a different thing. And I feel like being annoyed about being rubbed off is a weird emotion. Because either it feels like you have to be pretty hot or pretty cold about this. Annoyed seems like a mild nuisance about being rubbed off. I get. Does it have to be now? I mean, I guess yeah, but I'd rather. There's a time and a place, you know. But yeah, I do see the fundamental difference of being like lucky, but it's technically available, and lucky and it's not available. But I equate those a lot. But I do know that feeling, because someone's like, oh look, I got a 22-star eye patch. It's like, that's really cool, bro. I could have one too, but I just didn't get the drop. I mean, I do agree with the part where if it's like getting to, like, I get this. I have characters without badges as well. So even though this could be something that I theoretically definitely agree with, but then the second part is like, oh, and this makes it, so I just don't, that leap is not something that I do. It's like, okay, you could definitely agree with the fact that you think it's unfair the way that it happened. I agree with that. It was probably really fucking stupid. It's like the implementation of familiars was horrible. That should never have gone the way that it did. But then the result of how you deal with that could be very different. It's like, therefore, I can never switch mains because now I'm going to be forever gimped because my baseline is here because that has a potential badge and I can never go back. I can never go down. That's impossible. Oh, Chenton, you're just saying my argument here, okay? You are copying me, sir. Why do I care about it? Because it's such a small difference? Because of this. Because then they'll just move on to the next thing and start crying about that on why they don't have that. Because I feel like it comes from a mindset of people who's looking for, who comes from a victim mentality rather than from a winner, a competitive winner mentality. That is why. The problem is pretty obvious, very unfair. Why? And why is unfair bad? People full of min-maxers and you're blocking them from being able to min-max efficiently. Well, no, if you're min-maxing, then you're min-maxing within your situation, right? You can never min-max out of situation. Because fair is better when it's actually possible to do. Well, because fair is better, but that's circular. Why is it unfair? Not because fair is better, why is it unfair? Tend to disagree with your opinion? Okay, that's a good start. While I agree the vast majority of people are complaining based on them wanting one more item to increase the damage, I think the issue comes in late in game min-maxing when a player is trying to squeeze it. Of course that's the only place where it comes, yeah. See no issue with them releasing some form of potable badge in the form of late game content. I don't either. I also think removing potable badges from the game would create more of a negative response than anything. I agree. It's really such a small source of damage end game, then what is the problem with releasing it again, especially considering they're actively adding more sources of damage than they force? I don't have a problem with it, but the game doesn't. The game isn't doing it. Did I say in this video that I'm against bringing back potable badges? I'm against people crying about needing them to be able to play the game or to be able to compete with people. I'm against that. I'm not against any of this. For the comparison between KMS and GMS, I also agree that we have a huge leg up on them when it comes to Galactics, but I see that more of an argument as to why we shouldn't have gotten that content to begin with. The first sentence is, I tend to disagree with your opinion, and then he says like 18 things I agree with. So either this person doesn't understand what I said, or I was completely, or I said things so poorly that it was completely misunderstandable in the first place, or both. You 100% don't come out that way when you talk about badges. I think people just don't want to hear anyone say anything negative about it, and is immediately like, oh, he's saying something negative about people who said that they want badges, therefore crucify him. Feels like some blinders go down, and it's like, Scardor bad. Game is unplayable and enjoyable with Magnus badge. That's a very nuanced first sentence to go into the comment section. Okay, let's see what other nuanced things this person has to say. Oh, sorry, playable. Feels like some blinders go down, and it's like, now who has the blinders on? The game is playable and enjoyable with Magnus badge. Dude, look at my bias. Look at my bias in the reading here. Jesus. Yeah, exactly. See, and now the next thing comes up. Okay, so what if we fix the dojo, the badge thing? Okay, now we have to talk about the legion blocks, because now those are unfair. Lab servitors are hilariously busted. Yeah, it's like 55 weapon and magic attack, I think. That's pretty big too. If there are only two options, and one is that new players feel that it's unfair because they can't reach something, or the other thing is that people who've been playing forever and spending endless time feel like they lose an edge because of Maple caving for newer players, I prefer the first situation out of the two. Even though you need influx, if the people who are like giving up before they even try when they're new to the game, I don't think you should put their opinion over the people who've been spending thousands of hours and playing the whole time in your game. who are happy that they have something, I don't think you should put the first group's opinion over the second group. I don't think that's a bad move. I'm pretty sure I say this, but when the thing starts with what would be more interesting to ask is what is the real move, did I really not say that? Because that is my opinion, though. Maybe it wasn't specifically mentioned in this video, but that is one of the things that I agree with. But if it's mentioned as what would be more interesting, either I didn't say it super duper clear, or the person isn't listening. If I was a min-maxer going into a new game and there was a legacy item that made older players 5% stronger that I could never achieve no matter what, then I probably wouldn't play that game depending on the nature of why I would even play that game. Alright, we just disagree. I would... Wait, it's because as a player doesn't have the benefit, I don't really care, it's not giving... I was going to say, like, well, the reason that other people think it's enough of a problem is because they don't think it's inherently... they think it's inherently bad that you can have a legacy item that boosts your damage. And then he says, that being said, I do believe that the idea of a legacy booster character is problematic in its core, but that's another topic. Wait, what? After items are acquired and the event is over, tell the community that the items given aren't significant for progression. Oh, this is like the, you already have it, therefore you want to keep it unique so that you can have an advantage over everyone else argument. If you really think that I think like that, then either I have a horrible way of communicating or you just only want to see the worst in me. Make a video on some dude's complaint that highlights flaws on game dev's decision on removing items, then go attack him. You know that the guy whose letter I wrote gifted me subs and thanked me for looking at his content and thanked me for the valuable feedback, right? I don't know why you're getting offended instead of the guy... Scardor literally Hitler confirmed. When people start disliking, call the community delusional. I don't call anyone delusional for disliking. I call people delusional for disliking and not having any argument or telling me why they dislike something. Exclusivity should only ever be applied to vanity items or consumables, not permanent power gains, especially in our country. I just disagree. I think there's nothing inherently wrong with it. There's definitely a line where it can be too much, where it gives such an insurmountable, insane benefit that it is kind of stupid to do that. But at this thing, I don't know what Nexon's justification or the real reason is. I don't know, man. What would really happen in all of this is just like an official statement from Nexon saying why they're actually gone and why they aren't coming back at all. I don't see anything wrong with that. The only problem I see with that is that I feel like some people in this whole discussion deserve that and some people don't. But those people who are like too focused on crying will probably either think it's too hard to get it anyway, or they will still say that it's unobtainable, but then they will lose all the more reasonable people who are currently on their side. So yeah, fucking do this, sure. I disagree with this first point, like he had me going in the first half here. Disagree with the first half, but definitely agree with the last half. The potable badge is the most extreme difference in equips when compared to KMS. I would say the Golux set bonus is a bigger difference. Oh wait, I think he got around to saying why it was idiotic is because he wants it to be fair and he perceives it as not being fair. It's 35 and 20. So it's 55 plus 9 grid coverage, which honestly at this point is basically just a little bit of crit rate. So that's almost negligible how much you get from the placement. It's 55 attack, which even at 3 is like a 165 flame score. Let's say 175. Let's be a little bit more charitable. Let's say 175 versus a badge that has 10 attack on it, which is already like 30, plus let's say 17 star, right? So like 76. So that's like 106 already. So that leaves like 70 stat. So you're saying there are people out there where 70 stat is better than 30% stat? There's no fucking way, right? If anyone ever says they would rather have the the lab pieces over the badge, they're just like... But I think that's the thing, yeah. I think most people don't care about the fact that they might never get it. They care more about the fact that it's completely unachievable. If something is there, and if they just work hard enough, there's at least a chance. And again, like, there are arguments to be made, and there are reasonable arguments, and there are conversations to be had, but I think most of these people are just mentally fucking themselves, and they're just looking for pinging around for other people to, like, 100% agree with them on it. That just creates into a feedback loop where a bunch of people are like, yeah, it's totally fucking unfair. Because they're just hoping that if enough of them agree, and enough of them are loud enough about it, they'll just get their way in the end, and then they don't have to... And it's basically like kids temper trying to get their way. And I'm not saying that everyone who has that opinion, or anyone who's engaged in the conversation, that everyone is like that, but it seems like that's the majority of people yelling, and that's kind of why I don't feel like giving ground too quickly on that. Because then what's the next thing that they're gonna want? What's the next thing that they're gonna try to do, right? I want Potable badge is gone so I can flex my Wondroid badge. +1 stat over you plebs. How to get rich on MapleStory? Nice mic you got there, not gonna lie. Dude, this was like a $3 fucking headset with like one of those little ball mics on top of it, and I had the headset like this, and then the ball mic like up to my mouth. It was so scum.